In the quiet town of Ridgemont, nestled in the shadow of rolling hills, tragedy would strike in a way that no one could have imagined. Paramedics rushed to the scene, navigating a maze of shattered glass and broken furniture. In the grand living room, illuminated by the soft morning light filtering through massive windows, lay the lifeless body of a young woman. Her expression, frozen in terror, told a story of betrayal and heartbreak. This was no random act of violence. It was a crime born from secrets, ambition, and a forbidden relationship that spiraled into deadly consequences. As detectives combed through the evidence, whispers of an affair between a powerful businessman and the daughter of his closest partner began to surface. The layers of deceit ran deep, and the truth would reveal a sinister web that destroyed more than just one life. What happened behind those opulent walls? What secret unraveled a seemingly perfect world? This is the story of how a husband's hidden relationship brought tragedy to Ridgemont and shattered more lives than anyone could have anticipated. Ridgemont, a town known for its pristine lakefronts and affluent neighborhoods, seemed an unlikely setting for tragedy. Its tightly knit community thrived on connections forged at high-profile business galas, charity events, and exclusive country club gatherings. In this world of privilege and success, one family stood as a cornerstone: Charles and Emily Donovan, prominent business leaders with a reputation for integrity and influence. Charles Donovan, 45, was the charismatic CEO of a thriving real estate development firm, known for his sharp intellect and charm. His wife Emily, 43, had a graceful presence that complemented Charles's charisma, often spearheading charity drives and community events. Together, they were a power couple in every sense, respected and envied by many in Ridgemont. The tragedy, however, didn't emerge from the Donovan family alone. It stemmed from their close association with the Millers, particularly Howard Miller, 50, Charles's longtime business partner. Howard, known for his meticulous demeanor, had built an empire alongside Charles, their partnership a pillar of the local economy. Howard's daughter, Isabel, 23, was a striking figure in her own right. Intelligent, ambitious, and fresh out of college with plans to join her father's firm. The Donovans and the Millers were more than business partners. They were practically family. Vacations, holidays, and joint celebrations were regular occurrences, fostering a bond that seemed unbreakable. Isabel often visited the Donovan estate, her presence a fixture at gatherings. She was seen as a younger sister figure to Emily and a mentee to Charles. But beneath this polished exterior, unseen tensions began to brew. Charles, known for his ability to inspire loyalty and admiration, began to spend more time mentoring Isabel. Their relationship, which started as professional guidance, soon crossed boundaries that neither of them could step back from. On a crisp autumn evening, Ridgemont's social elite gathered at a high-profile charity gala hosted at the Donovan estate. The sprawling mansion, adorned with golden lights and floral arrangements, was the epitome of elegance. Guests sipped champagne as they mingled in the grand hall, unaware that the night would end in tragedy. Charles Donovan, the host of the evening, appeared his usual confident self, effortlessly navigating the crowd. Emily stood by his side, radiating poise. Isabel Miller, invited as part of the Millers family, mingled quietly, her interactions with Charles catching the occasional curious glance. To the untrained eye, everything seemed flawless. As the event progressed, Emily noticed subtle but troubling signs. A fleeting touch on the arm, prolonged eye contact, and Charles's occasional absences from her side raised her suspicions. Still, she pushed her concerns aside, unwilling to disrupt the evening. Later that night, as the last guests left, Emily decided to confront Charles. But before she could gather her thoughts, a commotion erupted in the garden. The sharp sound of shattering glass pierced the silence, followed by muffled voices and hurried footsteps. Emily rushed outside, her heart racing. There, near the ornate garden fountain, she found Charles and Isabel in a heated exchange. Emily's sudden appearance froze the scene. Charles tried to explain, but his words were drowned out by Isabel's anguished outburst. The truth that had been buried for months spilled out, their affair, the secrecy, and the plans they had kept hidden. Emily, in a mix of fury and heartbreak, stormed inside. Charles followed, desperate to salvage the situation, leaving Isabel sobbing in the garden. Minutes later, a single gunshot shattered the stillness of the night. Police arrived at the Donovan estate to find a chilling scene. Charles lay lifeless in his study, a single bullet wound to his chest. Emily sat nearby, trembling and pale, the gun resting on the desk before her. Isabel, still in the garden, was found sobbing uncontrollably. Emily's initial statement to the police was cryptic. She claimed the gunshot was accidental, a product of her escalating emotions during the argument. But as the investigation began, nothing about the scene suggested an accident. The authorities were left with a tangled web of motives, suspects, and unanswered questions. The case that unfolded would expose not only the cracks in the Donovans' marriage, but also the devastating cost of forbidden love and betrayal. Detective Mark Chambers, a seasoned investigator known for his sharp analytical mind, arrived at the Donovan estate early the next morning. Ridgemont's police force was already securing the scene, and the evidence was being catalogued meticulously. Chambers, with years of experience dissecting high-profile cases, knew immediately that this crime was not as straightforward as it appeared. The first piece of evidence was the gun itself, a silver revolver found resting on Charles Donovan's mahogany desk. It was registered to Charles, with no immediate signs of tampering. Forensic technicians noted that only one bullet had been fired. Emily's fingerprints were found on the weapon, as well as smudges that suggested it had been handled multiple times, raising suspicions about its final placement. Chambers reviewed Emily Donovan's initial statement. She claimed that during a heated argument, she grabbed the gun to protect herself and that it accidentally discharged. However, her demeanor during the interview left much to question. Emily, while visibly shaken, chose her words carefully, avoiding specific details about the moments leading up to the shooting. Chambers made a mental note to probe further. Witnesses from the charity gala added layers of complexity. Many confirmed seeing tension between Charles and Isabel Miller throughout the evening. One guest mentioned overhearing hushed whispers between the two near the garden. Another reported seeing Emily watching them from a distance, her expression a mix of anger and sadness. Isabel herself became a key figure in the investigation. Chambers interviewed Isabel, whose alibi was shaky at best. She admitted to an affair with Charles, a revelation that shocked even the most seasoned detectives. According to Isabel, she had confronted Charles in the garden that night, demanding he leave Emily. Isabel insisted she had no intention of escalating the situation but admitted feeling threatened by Emily's sudden appearance. Her account raised more questions than answers, especially when it came to her whereabouts at the time of the gunshot. As forensic results trickled in, a surprising discovery came to light. Gunshot residue was detected not only on Emily, but also faintly on Isabel's hands. This revelation complicated the narrative. Isabel claimed she had touched the gun earlier that evening during a moment of panic but insisted she had nothing to do with the shooting. The residue alone wasn't enough to implicate her, but it added a layer of doubt to Emily's account. Chambers also delved into Charles Donovan's life, uncovering a string of financial discrepancies. Bank records showed significant sums of money being transferred to an offshore account tied to Isabel's family. This revelation painted a darker picture of their relationship, suggesting that it might have been transactional as much as emotional. It also hinted at potential motives beyond jealousy and betrayal. Another breakthrough came when Chambers reviewed security footage from the Donovan estate. Cameras near the study door captured a blurry figure entering minutes before the gunshot. The figure's movements were deliberate but hesitant, their identity obscured by shadows. Emily's presence in the room was corroborated by this footage, but an unexpected twist emerged. The figure appeared to leave the study moments after the shot, suggesting a possible third party. Chambers pressed Emily in a second interview, presenting the evidence piece by piece. Her initial composure began to crack. She admitted to confronting Charles with the gun but maintained that the discharge was accidental. However, when faced with the security footage and Isabel's conflicting statements, Emily grew visibly agitated, refusing to elaborate further. As the puzzle pieces started to form a more coherent picture, Chambers realized that the truth was buried beneath layers of deceit and emotion. The involvement of Isabel, Emily's volatile state, and Charles's secrets all pointed to a web of motivations, each tangled and contradictory. The investigation left the authorities with more questions than answers. Had Emily acted out of passion, or was Isabel involved in some way? Could Charles's financial dealings have driven someone else to orchestrate his death? Chambers knew the trial ahead would be the ultimate stage where these mysteries would unravel. As the investigation unfolded, Detective Mark Chambers and his team encountered a series of bombshell discoveries that turned the already complex case on its head. Just as they began to piece together the events leading up to Charles Donovan's death, new evidence emerged that shattered initial assumptions and raised unsettling questions. The first revelation came when Chambers received an anonymous tip. A voicemail left on the precinct's hotline suggested looking into Charles Donovan's hidden dealings with Isabel Miller. The caller, who distorted their voice, claimed that Charles had been planning to sever ties with Isabel, not because of his guilt over the affair, but due to financial extortion. Isabel, it seemed, had been blackmailing Charles, using knowledge of his offshore accounts to siphon money into her own ventures. This new angle painted Isabel not as a heartbroken mistress but as a calculating figure with significant leverage over the victim. Chambers ordered a deep dive into Isabel's financial records. What the team uncovered was staggering. A series of deposits, all traced back to the same offshore account linked to Charles. Isabel had received over $500,000 in the past year. When confronted with this evidence, Isabel's confident facade began to crack. She admitted to receiving the money but insisted it was a gift given voluntarily by Charles to support her business aspirations. However, texts recovered from Isabel's phone painted a far darker picture. Messages revealed threats to expose Charles's secret dealings if he didn't comply with her demands. The second revelation was even more shocking. An overlooked piece of forensic evidence, a faint trace of blood found on the inside of Isabel's bracelet, suggested that she had been closer to the crime scene than she had initially admitted. Isabel claimed the blood was from an earlier injury during the party, but the forensic timeline didn't match. This raised the possibility that Isabel had been in the study moments after, or even during, the shooting. As Chambers sifted through Isabel's unraveling alibi, another twist emerged. Emily Donovan's behavior came under increased scrutiny after security footage from a nearby convenience store surfaced. The footage showed Emily purchasing a prepaid burner phone just days before the murder. When investigators traced the number, they found it had been used to contact Isabel repeatedly in the week leading up to the incident. The conversations were cryptic, but one thread stood out. Emily pleading for Isabel to stay away and threatening consequences if she didn't. The phone records added fuel to a growing theory that Emily and Isabel's conflict was far more intense than either had admitted. The texts revealed an exchange that occurred mere hours before Charles's death. In one chilling message, Emily wrote, "I won't let you ruin my family. This ends tonight." Isabel's response, equally ominous, read, "You can't stop what's already in motion." But the most damning revelation came from an unexpected source, Charles Donovan's attorney, who reached out to police with a sealed letter Charles had instructed him to deliver in case of his death. The letter detailed Charles's fear that both Emily and Isabel were spiraling out of control. He confessed to his affair with Isabel, but also implicated Emily in a history of erratic behavior. Charles wrote, "I fear that my mistakes have put my life in danger. If anything happens to me, look to the two women I've wronged. They both have motives, and neither will forgive." This revelation threw the case into chaos. The letter not only implicated Emily and Isabel, but also hinted at the possibility of premeditation on one or both sides. The question shifted from who killed Charles to who had the strongest motive, and whether the crime had been the result of a conspiracy. As the layers of deceit and betrayal unraveled, Chambers found himself in a tangled web of suspicion. Emily's mounting instability, Isabel's calculated extortion, and Charles's own moral failings created a case so convoluted that even seasoned investigators struggled to find clarity. The stage was now set for the courtroom, where the ultimate truth, or an even darker series of lies, would come to light. The trial began 6 months after Isabel Miller's arrest, drawing widespread media attention due to the shocking nature of the case. The courtroom was filled with reporters, friends, family, and curious onlookers, all captivated by the high-profile affair-turned-murder. Isabel, once a confident and polished young woman, now appeared subdued and pale, her sharp features tense as she faced the reality of her situation. The prosecution presented a strong case, painting Isabel as a manipulative and obsessive individual who allowed her jealousy and unrequited love to drive her to murder. They outlined how Isabel had meticulously planned the attack, pointing to evidence like her purchase of the knife a week prior and the chilling premeditation revealed in her journal entries. The forensic evidence was damning. Her fingerprints were found on the weapon, and Charles's blood was on her clothing. Detective Mark Reynolds took the stand to detail the investigation. His calm and methodical recounting of the events painted a vivid picture of the crime and the steps leading to Isabel's arrest. He described the trail of evidence, including surveillance footage from a nearby gas station that placed Isabel in the area on the night of the murder. He also revealed the text messages she had sent to Charles, alternating between pleas for affection and veiled threats. The defense argued that Isabel's actions were not premeditated, but a result of emotional instability caused by manipulation and rejection from Charles. They painted her as a vulnerable young woman who had been drawn into an inappropriate relationship with a man who should have known better. They argued that her actions were a tragic consequence of a moment of rage, not a calculated murder. Emily Donovan also testified, her voice steady despite the grief etched into her features. She spoke of the devastation Isabel's actions had caused her family, particularly the impact on her teenage daughter Sophia, who had lost her father. Emily's words resonated with the jury, painting a vivid picture of the human cost of Isabel's choices. The trial lasted 3 weeks, with dramatic twists and emotional testimonies keeping the courtroom riveted. One pivotal moment came when the prosecution introduced Isabel's journal, which contained not only her thoughts about Charles but detailed plans for confronting him and making him pay if he refused to leave his wife. This evidence struck a severe blow to the defense's argument of spontaneous rage. As the jury deliberated, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. After 2 days, they returned with a verdict. Isabel Miller was found guilty of second-degree murder. The judge, taking into account the premeditated nature of her actions and the lasting harm to the Donovan family, sentenced her to 25 years to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 20 years. The sentencing brought a sense of closure to the Donovan family, though it did little to heal the emotional scars left by the tragedy. Isabel, expressionless as the sentence was read, was led away in handcuffs, her once bright future extinguished by her own hand. The case became a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder of how obsession and betrayal could unravel lives and lead to devastating consequences. The trial's verdict marked the end of a harrowing journey, but the story's ripple effects were far from over. The case of Charles Donovan's murder revealed a tangled web of lies, betrayal, and obsession, leaving an indelible mark on the lives of everyone involved and the community that bore witness. For Isabel Miller, the guilty verdict sealed her fate. Once a polished and ambitious businesswoman, she now faced life behind bars, her reputation shattered, and her future erased. Her manipulative schemes, fueled by greed and desperation, culminated in an act of violence that she could never take back. Isabel's downfall became a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked ambition. Emily Donovan, acquitted but not unscathed, returned to a life irrevocably altered. Though the court absolved her of direct involvement in her husband's death, public opinion was less forgiving. Emily's rage-filled threats and role in escalating tensions left her grappling with guilt and the daunting task of rebuilding her life. For her children, the loss of both parents in different ways left scars that no verdict could heal. The community of Ridgewood, once quiet and picturesque, bore the weight of the tragedy. Friends, neighbors, and colleagues found themselves questioning how well they truly knew the people around them. The case served as a grim, cautionary tale about the destructive power of secrets and the devastating consequences of actions born from betrayal. The Donovan case, a chilling tale of love turned deadly, serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of human relationships. It's a story that lingers, haunting those who followed it, and reminding us of the tragic consequences that can arise when trust is betrayed and emotions spiral out of control.